Today on Minutemen Defense, we're going to be talking about basic Minutemen loadout. And all political points aside, anybody who wants to be able to defend themselves and their loved ones in a time of need might be willing to invest a little bit of money in gear and training so they can be better prepared for that. So stay tuned and I'm going to show you what kind of loadout I would put together on the average person's budget. So real quick before we hop into this, each individual piece of gear, I want to explain to you what this video is going to be and what it's not going to be. I wanted to set a budget that made sense. So what I did was I Googled the average American income. It's $56,000 a year. It'll be high for some of you and it'll be low for others, right? But this is a guideline. So after a year, if you had taken 10% of your pay and devoted it to gear, you'd have $5,600. Throughout the course of a year with $5,600, you could buy the kit I'm going to lay out in this video. And if you're even more confined than that, if you simply remove the night vision, it drops it down to roughly $2,700. So removing the night vision capability from this kit gives you all the same daytime performance, obviously excluding the nighttime performance, but it also cuts the price in half, which for a lot of you is going to be the easiest way to get into it. And then maybe year two, you double down and purchase the night vision side of it. That being said, with what we are going to cover, what we're not going to cover is we're not going to cover which item you should buy specifically for each part of the loadout, right? I'm not going to tell you specifically which helmet you should go out and buy. I'm just going to give you a generalized price range and what I feel is the bare minimum of what you need. The other thing it's not going to be a review of each piece of kit I have in this video. I'm not going to spend a lengthy amount of time telling you, oh yeah, I really enjoy this one, I think it's well worth the money, or you could probably do a little bit better. And none of that really matters here. We can break that further down in another video, but today it's going to be more of creating that guideline for you to use in purchasing your first loadout. All right, guys, let's talk rifles. So real quick, I'm going to get into this super controversial topic, but 5.56 is probably the round you're going to want to choose, right? It's one of the most mass-produced rounds ever. NATO countries have been producing it as a standardized round for their proprietary rifles for years and years now. You might consider using a round that's so common you're never going to see the end of it, all right? And with that, there's some benefits to trying to go to 308 for some of you who might live in the desert. But again, this is a general guideline. And 5.56 is more than capable of doing a job that it's required to do, and it has for years now. So that being said, let's talk about the AR market specifically. If you're looking at the bottom of the market, it's around $400 to $500. And the top of the market is around $2,000. And I'm going to be talking about a part of the market that's often overlooked, and that's the middle of the market. Because today we're looking for bang for your buck, all right? And we're not looking to overspend on anything either. So with this middle of the market AR, this is a SIG M400 tread. And again, it's not a review of this specific piece of kit, right? But I chose this rifle because it has a chrome lined cold hammer forged barrel, which just means it's going to last a whole lot longer than the barrel on a $500 AR. And it's something that you would want to look for in an AR if you were going to purchase one. It's going to last a while, and that's what you're looking for here. You're looking for performance over the life of the rifle. You want to have something that you can train with and fight with, all right? Real quick, I'll mention a few other features. It's got ambidextrous safety and magazine release. Show you those. It's also got SIG Zone pistol grip on it, which I really like. I think it's comfortable, and it's got an MOE stock on it by Magpul. So again, you're getting rid of the A2 furniture and you're just getting something a little bit nicer than the bottom of the market. Reasons why I might not go with a $2,000 rifle, other than it costing twice as much and kind of ruining the budget for this video, but there's probably some features you can do without, and a whole lot of that money is just going towards the brand specifically. So to recap this section, I think middle of the market AR is the best option you have for your Minuteman loadout. All right, so let's talk about optics. So for your rifle, you're gonna want an optic. You're not gonna want to run iron sights on your rifle. It's not 1950s anymore, and we have better options. And you could spend thousands and thousands on glass, or you could spend $50 on glass. I wouldn't recommend spending $50. I also wouldn't recommend spending $2,000, especially for a 5.56 rifle. You're going to be dealing primarily inside of 300 meters with this. And 300 meters, you're very capable of using a red dot with very minimal training. You can get proficient with a red dot setup. So that's, we're not even going to speak about the ACOG in this video, my specific optic on my rifle. We're going to talk about $200-ish options for red dots. I think that's where you're going to want to stick around. You're not going to want to spend a whole lot more than that unless you have a whole bunch more money. And I wouldn't go really, I wouldn't go any cheaper than that. The options on the market that are below that, I would say are way less than reliable. So again, we want to stick with something we can rely on. And a suggestion to you might be like SIG's Romeo and Juliet combo. That's something that's very usable out to, out to 300 meters. Or you could go with a hollow sun combo, or you could go with just the red dot and save a little bit of money, skipping the magnifier completely. Again, with a little bit of training, you could become proficient shooting 300 yards unmagnified. All right, let's briefly speak about plate carriers. To start with, you want a plate carrier. You want to be able to put on armor plates. Technology has come a long way for you to be so callous to say you don't need armor plates at all and that you're faster without them. Just train more, okay? Just put the plates on when you go to the range. Just go for a run in them every now and then. Just wear them on a hike. Just train with the armor. It's well worth the wait. You can't put a tourniquet on your lung, okay? So to prevent sucking chest wounds and other horrible deaths, just put on the plate carrier. So let's talk about what things you're gonna want with your plate carrier. With your plate carrier, the main focus is going to be that it's made of a durable material, all right? So what I'm speaking about is the nylon or Condora it's constructed out of should be heavier weight than the stuff that airsoft plate carriers are made out of, and cheap Chinese plate carriers designed for airsoft. The problem with them isn't necessarily that they are made in China. You can find me on that. If you're on a budget, that might be plate carrier you need, but the material is what's in question. You want something that's of a constructed of a rugged material. I'd say at least 500 denier Condora better. So that way it's going to hold up to the abuses of you training in it, and hopefully you won't have to, but if you ever have to fight in it, you don't want your plate carrier falling apart on you, mid-combat. That's not a no-win scenario for you. So the other things you're going to want, you're definitely going to want it to have MOLLE webbing on it so you can attach all your other accessories to the plate carrier. You're going to want probably some kind of padding. If you're going to be wearing this for long amounts of time, padding on the shoulders is very nice. And then you want some kind of Velcro or buckle system so you can put on and off the plate carrier in a relatively quickly fashion. Real quickly, we'll speak about what specifically this plate carrier is as kind of a general idea for you. This is a Spartan Armor Sentinel 2, I believe. And it's got all the features you see here. It's got a drag handle on the back, which might be a key feature for you. If you're running in a team and you need to get moved by a teammate and you're wounded, a drag handle could save your life. But the point of this is I think I spent about $120 on this on sale. So you don't have to spend a ton of money on these. You could spend less than $200 and get a decent plate carrier. I've been running this one for like 4 years now, and it's held up through all the abuse I've put it through. But stay away from the cheap, flimsy plate carriers that are inevitably going to tear apart when you put any weight or stress on them. All right, let's speak armor plates. And I'm going to try not to go down a 30-minute rabbit hole with you on why you shouldn't be wearing steel plates, why you should be wearing ceramic plates. And I'm also going to skip over where I talk about every different threat rating of ceramic. We're going to only talk about level 4 ceramic plates. The long and the short of it go like this. Technology's come a long way. This plate is capable of saving your life against tremendous threats, and that's really an amazing thing. So what it requires of you is that you be in slightly better physical condition than you are without having plates, all right? If you're going to put together a kit to fight some unforeseen threat in a very dire time. And you're gonna tell me that you're better off without armor because you're unwilling to train cardio a couple times a week? I mean, maybe you need to rethink what you're even doing buying kit in the first place. But for the rest of us who don't want to die, this is this is an essential piece of gear that I would not go without, all right, in almost any circumstance. So again, level 4 ceramic, they're capable of stopping up to 30-06 AP. These plates are battle steel. They weigh about 5 pounds a piece. Mr. Guns and Gear has an excellent review of these. They go on sale every now and then. I think you can get them for like $89 on sale. So for less than $200, you're stopping your chest cavity from getting an unfixable hole in it. All right, you can put tourniquets on your arms and your legs. You cannot put a tourniquet on your lung. So put on armor plates. All right, guys, helmets. And I'm really doing my best to try to keep this brief. So we're gonna come at this one again. So the long and the short of it goes like this. In the market, here in the US, you can get some of the best helmets ever produced, period, anywhere. And they're gonna cost you $1,000 to $2,000 on the high end. And then on the low end, you have a $300 US option. And that is a bump helmet. So for the guys who aren't up to speed on that, that's to protect you against getting, you know, your bumping your head. It's gonna give you the ability to mount your hearing protection and your night vision still, and it's gonna be modern. So it has, you know, like this ratcheting system in here, and it's gonna be produced in the US, so you can, again, hopefully rely on that. But it offers literally 0 ballistic protection. So, you know, a stray 9mm flying across the battlefield catches your grape and you are in la la land. So it's all over for you. And people will argue with me all the time that you either have to choose the $1,000 to $2,000 helmet, which maybe you can't afford, or you have to pick the $300 helmet, which offers you 0 ballistic protection. And I'm crazy, so I believe that there is another option, and that's to buy a cheaper Chinese version. And I can already hear you seething in the comment section. Yes, I know this helmet is inferior to the American ones. This is not a video to argue about that. This is a video to give those of you who don't have the point of reference the information you need to make a decision about your life and about your own head, right? And how you want to protect it. Now, I'm not saying I trust this helmet better than an American one, but I trust this ballistic helmet better than a non-ballistic US helmet, okay? So, and again, real quickly, this thing has a ratcheting system where you can adjust this dial and it tightens the band around your head, makes it very usable for night vision, cuts a lot of the movement out. It gives you the ability to mount electronic hearing protection on the sides, and again, to mount your NVGs to the front. It's offering a lot, all right? Now your other option looks something like this. Again, to be on a budget, this, I think I paid like $150 for it. I've even seen them for $100. This is a US surplus helmet. This is the ACH, Advanced Combat Helmet for the Army. It was produced in 2007. Compared to the Chinese one, I would trust the material this is made out of, and I would trust the manufacturing processes on this helmet over the Chinese produced one. That much is obvious, but it's got an inferior NVG mount. It does not have side rails, although you could trim this with a bandsaw and add them. That's a subject for another video. It's got the antiquated straps on it, which suck horribly for NVGs. And you could probably find one of these for cheap and upgrade it, and that's a solid option too. The drawback to this over the Chinese one is that ballistic helmets are made out of Kevlar fabric, which is, you know, a fiber and going to degrade over time. So this helmet being produced in 2007 and today it's 2023 has degraded to some amount. But again, it's a solid option. It still has the capability to stop ammunition of the pistol variety. So this is much better than a bump helmet. I would rather buy one of these for cheap and upgrade it to the same equipment that's on a bump helmet than have a bump helmet with no ballistic protection. All right, guys, let's talk white lights. So real quick, started out the variation of what I have for you guys. It's gonna go like this. So either you're gonna build a kit around night vision, and that's gonna change what light you buy, or you're gonna say, well, night vision's not in, in my budget right now, so I'm gonna get the cheaper light. All right. So this is a Surefire. I think it's M640V. V for vampire, so it has IR capability, which means that I can turn this flashlight to a setting that only people wearing night vision can see. So essentially, it's a flashlight for night vision. All right, and we'll get into why you might want that. But real quick, the white light only variation of it is cheaper. I think you can get the 340, again, not the V, for like 330 bucks. So that's a solid option. Surefire makes good lights. They last and they're proven. There's some cheaper stuff on the market like Olight, looking at you. I mean, those guys do not have a good track record, so I would stay away from that stuff. If you're buying items that are Chinese and they're not gonna last, it's definitely a waste of money. So some of the stuff in this loadout video we're going to talk about Chinese, and I might recommend, but there's definitely still, you know, I'm going to be real with you. If there's something that's cheap and shitty, you shouldn't buy it. And I think Olight products are that. I think they're cheap and shitty, and you probably shouldn't waste your money on them. I've bought, not Olight specifically, but I've bought cheaper lights before in the past, and I'm just, you know, they shit out on you, and they're not worth it in the long run. So don't buy them, you know, just go with something that you know is going to last and it's going to do what you need it to do. Surefire offers that. You're going to want to get a good white light for your rifle though. If you don't have night vision, it might be all the more important that you do have a white light so you have some means of engaging targets at night with your rifle, all right? Even in the daytime, these are handy for low light environments. You might be inside of a building that doesn't have lighting and you need to see dark corners where there could be potentially threats. White light is the answer. If you're building a fighting rifle, you want to put a white light on it. You want the red dot, you want the white light. These are things you want on your rifle. And again, if you're going with the night vision game, you might want one that's capable of offering IR light, so that way you can do all those same things, but through NVGs, all right? Gear is back on. Right now, we're gonna talk about pouches. So this one, there's so many different kinds of pouches and brands who produce them. So everything's going to be real generalized in this video. Start with, I put in $150 for pouches, which is more than enough. You can get some very cheap pouches that honestly they're fine and they're going to hold up. They just might not have features that are as nice as, you know, what else is offered on the market. But let's talk about the types of pouches you need. You definitely need bag pouches, all right? You need a way to reliably carry ammunition for your rifle. So you're gonna want some kind of pouch on there. These ones are nice, they're HSGI. They offer, you know, retention, but also the ability to operate them with one hand, so that's great. Again, you can get cheaper ones though that are just literally sewn fabric pouches with maybe a bunch, maybe not even one on top, or a Velcro top. Those are pretty cheap and they get the job done. So as long as it has some kind of MOLLE backings where you can attach it to your plate carrier and the material isn't super shitty, you should probably be fine and be able to get, you know, years of use out of it. Again, you might also want some pistol pouches, even if you're not running them for pistol magazines. You might be putting pieces of kit in there. An IFAK of some kind. You're going to want something to carry all that important medical gear. We'll break that down here in a second, what specifically items I think you need in the IFAK, but you definitely need a pouch to contain the items from the IFAK. And a quick little hack on making that smaller is if you remove some of the items and place them other places on your kit, you can get away with a very small pouch for your IFAK. All right, and then the last one I'll mention to you real quickly that I have is a hydration pouch on the back here. And I mean, we'll get into that itself here in a second to get into hydration, but you need some kind of pouch to carry that. One thing I don't think you need is I don't think you need a dump pouch. A lot of people will have them on their belt. If you're wearing any kind of military issue clothing with cargo pockets, the cargo pocket can serve the same purpose and save you money and also save you room on your belt and save you weight on your kit. So, all right, real quickly, we're gonna cover magazines. 6 or 7 30-round magazines is kind of like the go-to. I don't think too many people will fight you on that. You might have more in a pack or stored somewhere or whatever, but on the body, immediately accessible to you. At least 6 or 7 magazines, not 5 or 6, 6 or 7. That's pretty standard, 30 round mags, standard capacity for your fighting rifle. What you want out of them, you want them to, one, feed reliably. That is probably the most important thing. You don't want something that's going to cause malfunctions and cause stress and in times of already high levels of stress, right? That being said, still train for those instances, but you don't want something that's going to add stress for no reason. So find something that's feeding your rifle reliably. And then the other two things is when you insert it into your rifle, which I'm not going to show here on YouTube, you want it to lock up and stay in the rifle, right? You want to be able to easily insert the magazine, and then when you hit the mag release, you want the magazine to fall free and clear. You don't want to have to rip it out. So those are two things to consider. You also want your magazines to be, pretty robust, something that you can beat up. I mean, I've used a lot of different types of mags in my life, and most of them, they'll take the general levels of abuse they're going to see running them on the range and doing drills and stuff like that. So that's not usually a huge issue. I think I budgeted 6 mags. I went with Magpul M2s just as a quick kind of middle ground. You can spend more or less if you wanted to, but they're a good mag. So 6 of them, you're looking at like $58. So it's not super expensive, but definitely an important piece of kit, something you can't go without, and you want something that's going to work well. So, all right, let's talk about the belt. The belt is a piece of kit that some people might be able to do without. I would still recommend you get one. Realistically, with what I have here on the body, I could mount all this stuff that's currently on my belt to my plate carrier, but then if my loadout changes or I want to add something, I don't have much real estate left on the plate carrier to do so. So I think a belt is a necessary piece of equipment. That being said, for me, there's only one real type of belt I would recommend, and that is the inner-outer belt combination. So I'm going to show you here. There's a belt under this one running through my belt loops, and the outside of it's Velcro, and the inside of my outer belt is also the opposite of that, so that way they can mesh up. And what this means is as you're moving down range and you're hopping around and doing all your cool flat range drills, right, your belt's not bouncing around, which is awesome, because any of you who have run the old school belts where you just throw them on over your pants, they tend to move around, they'll flop around, and that's such a pain in the ass when you're going for a piece of kit and it's shifted over a foot to the left or shifted over to the right. So inner outer belts are, I think, the way to go. I've run the much tighter, taller, wider belts with like suspension, like suspenders and stuff like that. The reason I don't recommend those for most people, unless you're pretty tall guy, is when you use those in conjunction with a plate carrier, the belt does not offer clearance for your items, and they bump into your plate carrier. So especially with magazine pouches, if I had on a taller belt, those magazine pouches would be pushed into my plate carrier. It would make my draw stroke for the magazine very complicated, and you'll see guys doing this kind of weird stuff, pushing their hip way out and bending awkwardly to try to get to it. It's not a good system. I think this skinnier belt, again with the inner and outer belt in unison, is the best option. That being said, I wouldn't recommend this one specifically. The reason I wouldn't recommend them is this is not a real Cobra buckle, and if you guys know anything about Cobra buckles, you have to depress both of the ears on the buckle for it to come free. Well, this one's not actually a Cobra buckle, surprise, surprise, since it was cheap. And if you just push one of the ears and you wiggle the belt, it will still come undone. So if you're bending and moving and you accidentally bump one of those, you can potentially unbuckle this, which luckily it doesn't fall off because it's still retained. It's just annoying. So again, this is one of those pieces of probably Chinese kit that I wouldn't recommend, but I would recommend something like this. I would recommend you go out and you find what inner outer belt system you like the most and go with that. For our loadout video today, I budgeted about $150. I found one. I'll post it here, Gray Ghost Gear. I'm sure I posted some of their other stuff throughout this video. Looks like theirs was $164. So again, right in that price range. You could spend a little bit less, I'm sure, especially if you bought something used. You could spend a little bit more if you wanted something maybe a little bit nicer. But that's what I got to say about belts. All right, this one's going to be super short, but also super important. I see a lot of guys doing, practicing all the super sexy flat range drills and all these tactical reloads and stuff like that. And oftentimes we forget arguably the more basic, more important parts, like overall physical conditioning, and with that, hydration. All right, so on the back here, I have a 3-liter Camelback inside of a Marine Corps issue pouch for it. I think the pouch is super cheap. I think I bought it off the surplus site for like 12 bucks or something crazy like that. And the Camelback itself, you can get them from Camelback's website. They're $54, so they're not super expensive. But what that provides you the ability to do is to not die. Anybody who's worn kit for a long amount of time in the heat knows that your kit holds in even more heat, so you're going to sweat profusely. And again, this is a 3-liter bladder. This would not even last probably all day for the current physical condition I'm in right now. If I were to go outside on a 90-degree day and be outside running around all day in this plate carrier, I would easily burn through 3 liters of water. So I would say that's probably, a bare minimum of what you're gonna want to carry on your body. I mean, if you're one of those weird freaks that can, drink half a water bottle and make it all day out in the sun with kit on, hats off to you. But for most of us, it's gonna be at least 3 liters of water, and you're probably gonna have to fill that up at some point in the day too. Let's talk IFAKs. First of all, IFAK stands for Individual First Aid Kit. And the reason why we call it that is because everybody's going to carry medical equipment on their person for themselves. So when you get injured, you use your own IFAK on yourself. If you're injured and somebody else is treating you, they're going to use the items from your IFAK on you. That way it's easy, the logistics of it, everybody has their own medical equipment, all right? Now we get that out of the way. There's all kinds of kits you can get where they rip away, they deploy quickly. So, choose whatever kind of pouch suits you the best. I've just gone with a cheap pouch and I've mounted it on my belt. And the reason I've done so is because if, say, my right arm was injured or my left arm, I can still manipulate my belt buckle with one hand, right? And then I simply peel off my belt and I have access to my full medical kit with my other hand, right? Now, real quickly, I'll talk about what's in here. I have very limited medical training from the Marine Corps, so I'm not an expert on anything in here. I understand general concepts when it comes to life-saving procedures with these items, and though I've trained it, I'm not going to speak like I'm any kind of expert on saving your life. That being said, most of the items in here obviously revolve around you being in a gunfight, so getting gunshot wounds. And in that case, they're generally, the idea is to stop the bleeding. With your arms and your legs, this is done with tourniquets. And if you take these out of the kit and place them at other places where they're easily accessible and not zip tied, but secured with like a light rubber band or in a proprietary pouch specifically for tourniquets, so that way you can remove them easily while, obviously you're losing blood and very weak. You want them to be somewhere where you can remove them easily, access from either hand in case one hand is injured. And these can be used to stop the bleeding on any 4 of your, your limbs here, your arms or your legs. You also have other items, like you'll have pressure bandages that accomplish the same thing. You can have burn dressings and splints for fractures. You'll generally have some kind of trauma shears for removing clothing and finding where the wounds are on the person. Another super important one is you'll have some kind of gloves. And again, I've taken the gloves and I've pushed them here into my kit. I also have another set in here, so I have 2 sets of gloves. And that's just to prevent you're saving the guy's life, but you also don't want him to die 2 days later of an infection. So you're gonna want to be able to use those gloves. You have chest seals and a needle decompression. Again, I'm not a medic. I've had training on how to use these, but it's there as an absolute last resort, worst case scenario. If you're having to apply chest seals on a buddy or somebody's having to do it on you, it's not a good day. And You definitely want to have it as an option, you know, if it comes down to that, but you don't want to, you just don't want to be in that scenario. So kind of some tough stuff there for you. But overall, yeah, it's super important. You have one of these, super important to know what's in it and to have a good understanding of how to use all of this stuff. So now we're going to talk about weapon slings. So take this strap off. Weapon slings are super important. You want to be able to maintain positive control of the weapon at all times, right? And the sling is going to help us do that. It's going to help us if you trip or fall, not lose your rifle. If you're close enough to an enemy combatant that they can grab your rifle, it's going to keep you from losing it and letting it be used on you. It's also going to help you support yourself when shooting in both the prone, standing, barricade, whatever. And on top of that, you're going to be able to use the sling to go hands-free in your gun if you need to do something like apply a tourniquet or mess with your radio or whatever it is you're doing. It gives you the ability to go hands-free yet still be close to your rifle at all times. So the different types of slings there's 1, 2, and 3 point slings. To me, 2 point slings are where you want to be at. And with the 2 points, you want to have some decent points of connection. This one's fitted around the stock, and then to a sling swivel mounted in the M-lock on the front of this rifle. And as well as having a 2 point sling, I recommend you get one that can adjust. This one I can adjust out and back in with one hand, which is critical. I can get it to the proper tension for shooting and become extra supported. And then if I need to go in the prone and that amount of distance changes, I can do so. Again, if I need to go, tight to the body with the weapon system, I can go all the way down, and I have it here at the right distance, so that way when I'm wearing kit, the weapon is basically hands-free now, and I can more or less move around it without being, inhibited by the rifle. But this one in particular, this is a Blue Force gear sling. It's issued to me in the Marines, designed by Larry Vickers. It's something I know I'm familiar with. I've run it a lot. You can get them, less than $100. I think they're like $50. But sling is definitely a piece of kit that you can't go without. Electronic hearing protection. So this is something that, you could easily justify going without. Although the reason I included it is because if you've ever been in a scenario where you're shooting rifles without hearing protection, it's incredibly loud and it's not good for your hearing and it's a bad idea in general. And then if you go the cheapest option, you're stuffing pieces of foam in your ear, and while it might protect your hearing, it also inhibits your hearing, right? It also inhibits you to communicate with people next to you. It inhibits you to hear things that are going on around you, and that in conjunction with loud rifles, it just overall, it takes away one of your 5 senses, right? So it takes away that hearing aspect from you on the battlefield and in any kind of high stress environment when you're already probably in let's just say a compromised state, right? So the reason I would definitely recommend getting something other than that is to be able to maintain some of these important senses, right? So have a leg up and an advantage here. With electronic hearing protection, such as these, and there are cheaper options than this, certainly. These are a set of Peltor Compact 3s, I believe, and these ones I think I paid around $300 for, and if you get the newer ones, you can pay $500, $600, $700, $1,000. Hearing protection can just go up and up and up like everything else. But that being said, with a cheaper option like a set of walkers that you might be able to pick up at your local sporting goods store or online, you can go over the ear or even earbud and still get active hearing protection. So what it's going to do is it's going to filter the sound that's coming into the headset, and it's going to cut out loud noises and also amplify smaller noises. So now you have super hearing. Definitely worth it, and I think it's within most people's price range to go ahead and get something like that. Now, this also has capability to communicate with through a radio with the use of a push-to-talk system, but the radio is not something I want to cover in this video. Night vision capabilities. This is a big one, guys, and I'm trying not to go super long on this one, but there's a lot here to talk about. To start with, it's a capability you want to have. For the price of the entry-level stuff, you're literally talking about being able to operate 24 hours a day instead of only when there's enough daylight for you to visibly see and move and shoot. So it's a superpower that you are literally paying for. That's incredible. And if you can afford to do so, awesome. If not, you need to keep in mind that other people out there do have night vision. And in a real world scenario where you might need to, defend your friends, your family, your homeland, whatever the case may be, there will be other people with night vision, and not all of them will be friendly to you. So that's, you gotta think about that. That being said, let's talk about the entry level setup right here, right? So this is a PVS 14. This is Gen 3, and this is Green Foss. All right. Now, there are cheaper options available. However, this is where I'm going to tell you, this is where you want to hop into the market at. All right. So this unit here will cost you about $2,000. And that's for the entry level stuff. You can spend a lot more on a PVS 14. You can spend up to like $5,000 on a unit, and the $5,000 unit is worth more. It's worth $3,000 more than the $2,000 unit. They're that much better. They're amazing to look through, but this is going to give you that entry level threshold. The stuff below it, PVS 7s and old Gen 2s plus stuff, I would not recommend getting into. We can break that down further in a video, but if you want to resell this when it's time to move up, that's going to be pretty easy to do. This is because this is a great place to enter the market. So there's lots of people looking for it. If you want to loan this to a friend, this again is a great device for him to use for his first time, and you move on to something else. You want to keep it as a backup. Again, it's a great place to enter the market. They're relatively cheap when it comes to night vision anyways. So it's something you could reasonably see as keeping as a spare for the long term. That being said, what this does is that, like I said, it gives you the capabilities to fight in nighttime as well as day. So now you've expanded your window of operation and how long you can be effective. And a monocle like this, you mount in front of your eyeball so you can look through it. And there are obviously dual tube setups which give you added depth perception. There's dual tubes that you can get that are offset, so not only do you have added depth perception of having night vision in both eyes, but now you can see an increased field of view. This takes a lot to get good at. Night vision takes a lot to maintain as well. So my recommendations is get into the market when you can afford to. This is the spot I'm telling you to do so. Green Foss Gen 3 PVS 14, you can get them auto gated, and then you can get fixed gain, manual gain. Again, we can break down PVS 14s more in a future video, but this is, I'm telling you, this is where you want to be on your first iteration. Laser aiming modules. So when it comes to night vision, you can either aim your rifle by looking through the optic you already have mounted, and that means that the red dot you're using has to have a night vision setting with a low enough power that you can look through the optic while wearing night vision and still see the dot. Because at normal day brightnesses, that optic is going to be unusable. It's going to be too bright when you're trying to use it with night vision. So you could get a night vision optic, which we did not include into the budget because they are more expensive. You're starting to talk about $500 and $600 instead of, I think, the $200 we said before for red dots. So it's, obviously not something you need, and it's one of those things you got to pay more for. The cheaper option and more well-rounded option as well, I think, is the laser aiming modules. So this is a Steiner O-Tal-C, and this only does one thing. It emits an IR laser for shooting the rifle. So you zero this thing at night through nods. It's a giant pain in the ass because there's no day laser that you can just zero during the day and then be good to go at night. But these are at the entry level price point for the market. It's about as cheap as you can get into the laser game. And this is actually not even my recommendation for you guys. My suggestion to you though would be to get into the laser market probably with HoloSun, the LS321R or 321G. And if you want more information on laser aiming modules, go check out Hop's channel. He'll be able to help you understand this night vision game a little bit better than I can. All right, and the last thing to mention when you go make the switch from daytime only to night and need is some kind of switch system, so that way you can run it all. This is a surefire dual lead switch, one to the light, one to the laser. There are ups and downs to this. I actually don't recommend this. This is something I'm going to change out, but you will need some kind of laser, or you will need some kind of switch to be able to run whatever laser and light setup you're working with on your rifle. So just factor in that's going to be part of making the cross from no night vision to night vision. I just want to reiterate, I didn't cover everything in this video. The things I covered are what I deem the absolutely necessary items. Some stuff like communications, there's going to be items that I would definitely recommend if there is a team of people that you're working with. Sidearms is another thing I didn't talk about. You could definitely make the argument for them. I don't deem them absolutely necessary. You already have a rifle on your body, and we could break these things down more in a future video. But what I wanted to show you mainly in this video was that for $2,700 before night vision, you can have a loadout where you can be prepared for whatever kind of scenario is going to arise, whatever kind of uncertainty. And if it's some kind of foreign entity making headway in this country, or just mass chaos in the country we live in now, and you don't have to rely on somebody else to defend you and your family. All right, now if you look, we added night vision, and that brought us up to like the $5,700 price range. So obviously a big jump, but that's what night vision is. It's expensive at the bottom line, but still for $5,700, a lot of people are going to be able to afford that if they budget that out over a year or possibly longer. But the idea with this video was to give you a point of reference to know what items you need, how much money in general is it going to cost, and then you can make the decision moving forward on what items you need to buy and how long the time frame you're going to give yourself to buy all those items, so you can begin training and becoming proficient with those. All right, guys, the last thing is, let me know in the comments if this is stuff you're interested in. These are probably my favorite kind of videos to make, where I get to just be long-winded and ramble on about stuff. And if you guys are into that, I'll definitely make more of these in the future. We can break down specific pieces of gear or other things than just the basic loadout. Just let me know in the comments whether this is something you enjoy or not, and I'll see you in the next one.